Big news in the world of Formula 1 today. Oliver Oakes has stepped down as Alpine team principal, all but confirming the return of Franco Colapinto at the Imola Grand Prix. In his absence, Flavio Briatore will be taking over his duties. But Alpine have been very careful the way they've worded this. They haven't said that Flavio is going to be the team principal. He says that he's taken over the duties that were performed by the team principal. And of course, the rumours were already circulating around Jack Doohan's future. And with this news, it's sort of all but confirming that Franco is going to be in the car for Imola. Before the season had even started, there were numerous news sources claiming that Franco was going to be replacing Jack Doohan mid-season, and that Jack had only been given a 6-race contract, and Miami just gone was the 6th race of the season, so it would make sense that Franco was going to be in for Imola. And the fact that Alpine had paid about $20 million to get Franco as their reserve driver, he was never going to stay the reserve for long. He was obviously always going to be getting in the car at some point. So what we're going to do today is talk a little bit about the Franco news and the Flavio news. First of all, with the Alpine side of things, I really do not believe that Oliver Oakes has resigned from team principal role. I think it's far more likely that Flavio's had some sort of underhanded way of squeezing Oliver out so that he can be top dog at the team. Let's be realistic, a character like Flavio was never going to come in and work a bit behind the scenes and not be in the media too much and not try and take up the headlines. He is like a diva of the Formula 1 paddock. He wants to be the top dog. And now that Oliver Oakes has gone, he sort of is. And we all know that Flavio is the type of person to make these quick snap decisions. So although it hasn't been officially announced that Doohan has been dropped yet, I would put very good money on Franco being the car in Imola. But there's something I really don't understand about Alpine's way of working recently. It seems like since Sula Bitable left a few years ago, they've just been sort of chasing their tail. They can't seem to get a team principal to last more than about 6 months. And what they're doing with their drivers, I will never understand. But just look a few years back, they had Fernando Alonso, an incredible Formula 1 world champion, one of the best drivers of the sport's history. Then had Esteban Ocon, who is a very solid midfield driver. Then you had Oscar Piastri as their reserve, one of the most decorated junior career drivers that we've ever seen. And now they've all gone, and they've got Gasly, who is a great midfield driver, Doohan, who is not doing great, Franco, who's still quite unproven, and Paul Aaron as their reserve. And it's just like, how have you gone from like a really great driver lineup to having like, it's just like a mess? And like, I honestly can't understand why any young driver in like Formula 2 or Formula 3 would want to be part of the Alpine Academy. Alpine never seem to really invest in their young drivers, and when they actually do, and they give Jack a chance, he's booted out after just 6 races. So why even bother signing Jack in the first place? I can only assume that what happened was when Ocon announced that he was leaving and going to Haas, there wasn't many drivers that Alpine could have gotten. I mean, they could have gotten a Bottas or a Perez, but I don't know if they really wanted that. I think they wanted a young driver, and I think they definitely wanted Franco, but Franco wasn't available at the time, so they sort of maybe settled on getting Jack in the car. I mean, Jack's junior career was pretty good. It wasn't an amazing junior career. It wasn't one of these drivers that's knocking on the door of Formula 1 that everyone's saying, like, oh, this guy needs to get a seat. Like it was like Liam Lawson a few years ago, everyone was like, this kid needs to get in there. There was never that same hype around Jack Doohan. I can't think of many times that Jack did something in the junior categories that was like electric. And this, coupled with the fact that Jack doesn't really come with much in the way of sponsorship, I can see why they're leaning towards Franco. And yes, Franco was very crash happy in the Williams, but I suppose if you've got 2 drivers that are maybe quite similar in experience level with Jack and Franco, and one comes with massive financial support and one doesn't, you're obviously going to go for the driver that brings in the millions and millions of dollars of South American sponsorship. As well, Franco is really popular with the fans, particularly the way he is in the media. I think he's fantastic, the way he speaks in interviews. And for better or for worse, I think Formula 1 teams really put a lot of stock in how a driver is received by the fans. Particularly with this Drive to Survive new era fans coming in, they're all heavily invested in the personalities. And it seems like Jack maybe doesn't have the same reception among the fans that Franco did. I mean, as soon as Franco was in, everyone loved him. So the combination of them never really wanting to sign Jack in the first place, having paid $20 million to get Franco, getting that money back on the investment that Franco will bring in, and the fact that the fans adore Franco, it's so obvious why this is happening. All you need to do is go and take a look at the Alpine social media. As soon as they make any post, even completely unrelated to Jack or to Franco, the comments are flooded with Argentinian flags and people asking about Franco, when's Franco getting in the car, boot Jack out, Jack's garbage, get Franco in the car. And I think it maybe would have been better for Jack if he just never accepted this position in the first place. I mean, surely he knew that he was never going to be able to get a long-term seat in Formula 1. As well, I saw this morning that Franco is going to be testing the Alpine in Zandvoort this week, which is another sort of another confirmation that he's going to be in the seat for Imola. There's no reason why a Formula 1 team would be sending Franco out to test a car if they're not going to be racing in a few weeks' time. Obviously, we are still waiting on official confirmation from Alpine, but as I've said a couple of times now, it's all but been confirmed. But this constant musical chairs at Alpine with the changes of team principals constantly, a bunch of Alpine top engineers and strategists leaving. The drivers, as I mentioned, they've completely changed in the last few years. And I think this is why Alpine are never going to really be a top team. If they can't make up their mind as to who they want in what job and what drivers they're going to invest in, they're just going to be stuck at the back forever. If you take a look at McLaren, for example, when Jack Doohan took over, McLaren were at the back of the constructors. They were dreadful. The McLaren Honda years, it was so bad. Things started to take a bit of an upturn in 2019. They had a bit of a rebranding in Carlos and Lando. But then at the start of 2022, McLaren were awful, and they were having to make 4 pit stops in a race. And instead of getting rid of Lando and Oscar and replacing them with 2 other drivers, they decided to stick it out because they knew the potential was there. And I think that's what Alpine need to do. They need to decide on a driver lineup, decide on a team principal, and just stick it out for at least a couple of years. Oliver Oakes was there about 9 months. That's just no time at all to turn a team around, especially a team that's at the back of the midfield. At the moment, Alpine have only scored 7 points this whole season. They're only 1 point ahead of Sauber, who are last. And Jack hasn't scored any of those points. So as much as I don't really like drivers to be treated in this way, similar to Liam Lawson at Red Bull, just being booted out after 2 races, Jack being booted out after 6. I don't like to see these things happen, but I can sort of understand that if Alpine want to be scoring points, I can see why they think Franco would have a better chance at doing that. Just take a look at last year. He was called in through Williams very last minute, didn't do any sort of testing, no F1 experience at all, and within a couple of races was already scoring points. And yes, he was making a lot of mistakes and he was crashing, but there's a big difference between a driver that's fast and crashing and that is a bit slow and crashing. And unfortunately for Jack, I think he is just a little bit too slow and the mistakes are still creeping in. Obviously what happened to Jack at Miami wasn't really his fault. He just got involved in a tangle in turn 1, lap 1. These things just happen. But I think that Jack really does seem to lack a bit of fundamental pace. And Alpine obviously have a lot more data around the driver's speeds and sector times. And in terms of feedback, I mean, maybe Jack's coming back after qualifying and saying that's the absolute limit that I've got, and he's still maybe half a second off Gasly, and that just isn't good enough. So I do think that Franco would do a better job, and I'm really glad that Franco is back in F1. I think he really does deserve to be there. I think he's a fantastic driver, and he's got a great backstory too. He doesn't come from a huge amount of money. His family worked really hard to get him through things. He's been completely self-funded his whole career. So I do really think that Franco is a fantastic driver, and he is maybe a bit of a diamond in the rough at the moment, but a Formula 1 team is definitely going to prefer a diamond in the rough over just rough. Honestly, if Franco doesn't work out in Alpine, I've got no idea who they're going to turn to next. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Is this a good call? Is it a bad call? Is Flavio going to turn Alpine around and they're going to be a World Championship winning team again? Or is Crashgate 2.0 going to happen and there's going to be a huge controversy surrounding the Alpine Formula 1 team? Personally, I'd probably go with the latter. I think this is going to be a bit of a disaster, if I'm honest.